The streets were quieter than usual, covered in a thin layer of snow. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the warm glow of streetlights flickered against the evening fog. Inside diners and homes, people gathered around their meals, sharing laughter, warmth, and comfort. But outside, near a small alley, an old man sat on a wooden crate, his coat thin, his shoes worn, his hands trembling from the cold. He wasn't always like this. Once he had a home, a wife, and a little boy. But life has a cruel way of turning pages when you're not ready. His wife had passed away too soon, and his son, too young to understand, had been taken in by relatives. Left with nothing but memories and regrets, the old man wandered the streets, surviving on the kindness of strangers and the rare good fortune of finding work. Tonight he was lucky. A kind baker had given him a loaf of bread, and a generous woman had handed him a small bowl of soup before disappearing into the crowd. It wasn't much, but it was more than he had the night before. He found a quiet corner near an old cafe, away from the harsh wind, and sat down to eat. He took slow bites, savoring each one, as if trying to make it last forever. As he was about to finish, he noticed a boy across the street, shivering. His clothes were torn, his face pale, his eyes darting towards the old man's food. He hesitated for a moment, then looked away, as if ashamed of his own hunger. The old man watched him carefully, remembering a time when his own son had looked at him the same way, hungry, helpless, waiting for something, anything. Without thinking twice, he tore the bread in half and gestured for the boy to come closer. At first, the child hesitated, but hunger knows no pride. He walked over slowly, his small hands shaking as he accepted the food. The old man smiled. "Eat, son. You need it more than I do," he said softly. The boy ate in silence, his eyes filled with gratitude. When he finished, he looked up. "Thank you, sir," he whispered. The old man just nodded, watching as the boy ran off, disappearing into the crowd. He leaned back against the cold wall, closing his eyes for a moment. His stomach was empty again, but his heart felt full. That night, as the city moved on, as people returned to their warm homes and busy lives, the old man sat quietly in his corner. The cold pressed harder against his body, but somehow it didn't feel as harsh anymore. He had given away his last meal, but in that moment he had felt something he hadn't in years: purpose. And as the night grew colder, he smiled, knowing he had made a difference, even if just for one hungry child.